Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Today we are trying a bit of Infect out. Now this is a deck that hasn't really been doing that much since the old Orcish Bowmasters came out and started pinging down all the X1s. But there's a few people out there who are still jamming away with it. I will also link Sam Dams, who's kind of like the Infect master these days. I will link their channel below if you're interested in more Infect content. But I've not had a go with it for a little while, so I thought we'd try out this new card, Embiggen, that a lot of people are pretty hyped about. So this is a +1/+1 for each super type, card type, and subtype it has. So, creature, Phyrexian, warrior, elf. That's going to be a pretty good pump on this one. And the same with this has got 3 creature types, so it should be pumping these reasonably well. So it's an instant speed +4/+4, so just better giant grave for our deck. If you're unfamiliar with what Infect is, I should probably explain that as well. So Infect is a mechanic where instead of dealing combat damage, you deal poison or -1/-1 damage if it's to creatures. So if your creature is swinging for 5 damage, it'll deal 5 poison counters, and if the player has 10 poison counters, they lose the game. So we're trying to use Glistener Elf, Blighted Agent, and Inkmoth Nexus to deal that damage, and then we've got a whole bunch of pump spells here. So Invigorate is a free one. They gain life, which obviously we don't care about because we're just trying to infect them. Berserk, which doubles the power, so this and Invigorate is game over. We also have Vines of Vastwood, which can protect our creature for green, and give it +4/+4, but on its own, it's just giving it protection. We have Royal Treatment, which gives it hexproof until end of turn, gives it a +1/+1, and ward 1 permanently, which is pretty reasonable. And then obviously Embiggen that we've mentioned before. Noble Hierarch is also a pump spell of sorts. This can help us chip in for extra damage. We've got a bunch of counter spells you'd expect. We've got less cantrips than you'd normally see in a lot of blue decks. We've only got 5 here, but this is a list that won a paper tournament, so I'm just going to roll with it. And we've got 3 Lorien Revealed just to help make sure that we can hit our colours, and this can be a useful card later on. And we've got a couple of crop rotations, which usually will help us find Inkmoth Nexus, but sometimes we might need something like a Bojuka Bog or a Karakas. And we also have a couple of Wastelands if we need these to get rid of things like Maze of Ith or whatever. And there is a sneaky Pendelhaven here, which we can use to pump our agent or Glistener Elf. So that's the main deck. Not looking forward to playing against Bowmasters, to be honest. But we'll see. Maybe we have enough stuff to get around it, and we can get it. So if we just have an untapped Pendelhaven, that's pretty good against Bowmasters. So maybe that's the tech we need there. As for our sideboard, we've got a bunch of tools, pretty much all you'd expect. You know, a little bit of removal, which isn't necessarily the best removal because, you know, we're in blue-green. We've got some counter spells of different varieties. We've got Veil of Summer, which is a really big one to protect our stuff and should be good against Bowmasters. We've got the Chills against things like the Mono-Red Storm decks. So this is obviously from paper tournament, so maybe this is more specific for the meta they're in, but we're going to roll with it anyway. A Boseiju, Sylvan Library, some Destruction here. We've got a little bit of Graveyard Hint in the form of Surgical Extraction and Grafdigger's Cage. Sorcerer's Spyglass is also a weird one as well. I'm not sure why we're running this as opposed to Pithing Needle. And we've got a Force of Vigor. So this is kind of an interesting list. Like I said, it won a paper tournament. I'm curious about some of the choices here. Maybe we'll see when we get into it. It's often quite difficult sideboarding with this deck because you need such a critical mass of the things you're doing that maybe only boarding in a couple of cards here and there is what's going to happen. And I imagine we're going to leave a lot of our sideboard untouched here. Alright, that's it for the deck tech. Remember to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. And when I hit to 2,000 subs, I'm going to do a giveaway with a copy of my book. I'm an author in my main life here. And also I'll give a free donation deck to the winner as well. So keep an eye out for that, and let's jam some Infect. If you're looking to play Legacy on MTGO like me, why not try Card Hoarder? They're a rental service that I personally use, and I found them better than other rental services that I've used in the past. So why not give them a try? Our opening hand does not have an Infect guy or a way of finding an Infect guy, so I think this has to be a mulligan. This one seems a bit better to me, well, I'll keep this. Something I like about this deck, this particular deck list, is that we have a basic forest that we can reach for. So I think we're probably putting back the Invigorate here. I know we kind of need that sort of thing, but I'd rather have Forcible blue card, especially in the meta at the moment with so many combo decks floating around. Alright, we're immediately going to be paid off for having a basic forest in our deck. There's a pump spell, one of the many we have. Basic forest. I've seen some versions of Infect that don't run a basic forest, and I'm personally all about having at least access to one basic. Let's see what sort of Wasteland deck our opponent is. A Tundra. You can see the Tundra Wasteland decks that often. We do not have a basic island here. I will play this Tropical Island out now, and then we will use this to cast our Blighted Agent, holding up the Embiggen and the Force of Will. If they Wasteland us, we can always cycle for another mana source here. A Brainstorm from our opponent, sure. Alright, so we're in with the Blighted Agent. Sorry, not Force of Will. Swords of Plowshares is something that we're going to be a little bit worried about. So they're probably going to be island cycling here. Yep, so that's going to shuffle away their cards they put on top with the Brainstorm. The only way we have to protect our Blighted Agent right now is via this Force of Will. A Grief, you say? How do I feel about this Grief? Interesting. I think I'm going to island cycle here. I'd very much like to have access to another trop. So now we have a question. Do we Force of Will this and protect our Embiggen, or let them just take one of our cards? I think we just have to let them take one of our cards here. This way we'll be left with probably Blighted Agent and one other card. So they can either leave us with Force of Will active, or they can leave us with Embiggen. So I think that's better than Force of Willing here. Now, if they can reanimate this or blink it, then that's going to be a different problem for us. Right, so took our Blighted Agent. Alright, so they are going to reanimate this, and they're probably going to come in and take our Embiggen here. Now, this isn't the end of the world, as long as they don't have a Swords to Plowshares as well. But I probably shouldn't have said that, because I may have spoken into existence. Right, so we lose our Tropical Island. Alright. Play this out. Splash for 2. I think if they had a plow, they do it in response to the infect, into the Exalt trigger here. Playing out this Blighted Agent doesn't change our clock, it just means that we're slightly better against removal if we play it out, but then we could always Force of Will the removal anyway. So I'd much rather have a Force of Will active. Some sort of Espeval deck. A Ponder, that's fine, that doesn't stop our clock here. So we need 4 more swings with our Blighted Agent. They chose not to shuffle their library. Not a fan of that one. I imagine we're going to get bashed for 3 here. So our clock is faster than theirs right now. But who knows what wonderful things our opponent's going to throw at us. But we'll see. A Wasteland. I don't hate that. It's good attacks. I would kind of like to remove our opponent's Tundra. Let's try and do that. That's the removal colour. Like, obviously there's still black removal, but if you're in white, then you play the white removal spells because they're just better. Like, Swords of Plowshares is the best removal spell. So, alright, so let's see what happens here. White mana is in the pool. A Brainstorm. Okay, I'll allow that. So we're now at the point where an Invigorate will be lethal on its own with our guy. So we have to counterspell Orcish Bowmasters or another removal spell, I believe, at this point. It feels like a Bowmaster. It's a Ferry. I don't really want to play against a Ferry. I think this is a Force of Will target. Our opponent has 2 cards. If it's Force of Will blue card, then that's going to stop us there. But alright, our opponent's tapped out as well. So if we can draw an Invigorate, we might be able to win the game. And Embiggen does it as well. Vines of Vastwood. Or just a basic good old-fashioned fetch land. That's not really what we're after there. We do have Brainstorm in our deck. So I think we're going to keep this Windswept Heath in hand. That means we're more likely to be able to find a pump spell and a Daze. And our opponent's going to be considering what we might have in hand. A Wasteland, sure. So they'll be more inclined to fire this one off, I imagine. Because we didn't play a land last turn. Another Teferi. Okay. So yeah, so they can bounce our Blighted Agent, blow up our Tropical Island. And that might make them think they can Daze whatever we're trying to... Like we're trying to redeploy the Blighted Agent. But we do have another mana source, so we can pay around a Daze. But the clock is... oh, they kept it back to keep their Duda alive. That's interesting. Do I have another thing I can fetch with this? I do. Good. That's the last fetchable. Understood. Let's make ourselves a little Blighted Agent. By our opponent not attacking last turn, that keeps that Teferi live, but it doesn't... It means that bouncing the Blighted Agent didn't change the clock, it just gave them a card. It was just a cycle that's then going to hopefully tick up and do something later on. Ponder, sure. Amazed I haven't found a plow yet. Orcish Bowmaster. So the thing we said at the top that is pretty good against our deck is now coming to rain on our parade. So now they can attack with a Grief, and I think this game is going to be very difficult to win here. We need to draw an Infect creature next turn, and it needs to be one with Evasion. So one of our 4 Inkmoth Nexus, or it's the other... Oh, jeez. Alright. Yes, we either needed to draw an infect creature that turn. I think we still have... So we're going to take, what, 3, 4 this turn. If we take 4 this turn. I don't really want to sacrifice both of our hierarchs here. But we need to take... Oh, they're just attacking with that guy. That's fine. Not amazing fine, but we don't have to throw any of our hierarchs under the bus. Maybe they're worried that we've got a pump spell, as this card that we've been keeping in our hand for a few turns. So they want to attack into it. Lorien Revealed. Okay. If we cast this, what can we do? We have no 0 mana stuff that's going to mess with any of this. We are just dead here. Yeah, we're dead. Alright. Yeah, removal undone us pretty easily there, unfortunately. But I did mention before that we have these Veils of Summer. Not great with Teferi around, but pretty good in general. So, Flusterstorm is also one I'm kind of interested in here. Is this a Sylvan Library game? Perhaps. I don't think we're bringing in Sorcerer's Spyglass here either. I don't think that is what this one is about. So, would I rather... I think I'd rather have Veils than Vines. So that's an easy one that we can add 2 in. We're on the play, so the Dazes should be reasonable. I think Force of Wills and matchups like this are really awkward though. I guess we can keep 1. Because the problem with them is that your opponent is just hitting your hand so much, it's just a real pain. Although maybe 1 is slightly better than Daze. We'll go 3 and 2. Let's try this. Okay. We'll keep this. We will lead out on the Tropical Island, because that's going to turn on our Dazes and our Veil of Summer. Like, we're not ready to just wombo our opponent with a Inkmoth Nexus anyway. We have to play a slightly slower game here. There's a Wasteland. Interesting. I will crop rotate this away. If our opponent has a Force of Will here. Yep, that's going to be good. Sure, they pitched a Teferi. Alright. Well, I guess we can't cast any of our spells now. Bit awkward. We still can't cast any of our spells. Right, let's see what this Polluted Delta is going to find them. A white source. And a Ponder. So if we can find some mana, we've got a lot of good tools here. Like a Tropical Island unlocks our whole hand, really. And then we can brainstorm into more stuff. We've already got the Invigorate. Noble Hierarch. Close, but not quite the mana source we're hoping for. Cycling a Troll of Khazad-dûm. Just get an Underground Sea, which I assume they're going to play and then reanimate their troll with. There it is. Alright, we have a clock. It's going to kill us pretty quickly. Okay, none of our hands going to do anything, so that's fine, I guess. We'll just pitch one of these Dazes. I think if we don't draw a creature... Oh, sorry, if we don't draw a land next turn, we're kind of in trouble. Like, if we draw a land, we can activate our Nexus, Invigorate Berserk, and that is lethal. So, we've got that going for us at least. Now, our opponent's going to have something to say about that, of course. Lavinia. So that's going to shut off our Invigorate line. Unless we can get some more mana underneath us. Which is just not going to happen, is it? Okay, we're not going to be able to pitch 2 Dazes in the course of this game, so... Get rid of one of them here. Yeah. So this is like Esper Scam, basically, that our opponent's on. So this is 8, so we are dead on the next turn. So... How can we possibly win this game? A Karakas. Not quite the one, is it? We're just dead here. We didn't even get to play Magic in that game. Which is unfortunate. But sometimes you're going to get cheesed out of Wastelands. I've cheesed out enough people myself too. Alright, let's go to round 2. We can keep this one. I think we can deploy our Glistener Elf. We do have a bit of tension as to what we're deploying it with. If it's going to be our basic or not. How... much can we afford to have our land wrecked? I think we do just have to get a basic forest here. Our opponent's on the play though, so maybe get some more information. Alright, Polluted Delta, so we might be looking at some sort of scam type deck again. See, now we're kind of incentivized to get ourselves the trop so we can have access to our Daze. A tough call. I still think we have to get the forest here, because if we don't have green mana, we don't get to play the game. Maybe that's a little bit cowardly. Like, we don't have access to Daze, but we still have the Force of Will. So we need another green and another green. So if we have the mana for Vines kicked plus Berserk, then we should be alright. But that's a ways off and requires a lot of intensive green. There's an underground siege from our opponent. There's the reanimate. There's the ponder. Maybe I should have counterspelled that. I'm trying to win on our terms with the force of will. I'm playing to win the game, not lose the game. If that makes sense. So if we can protect our combo here, then I think we'll be alright. Maybe that's the wrong way of playing it. Maybe I should just play more defensive here. But I believe like the blue-back scam deck has got better late game than we have because they've got things like Sauron's Ransom to pull ahead. Whereas our sort of big card advantage thing is the 5 mana Lorien Revealed, which is just not good enough. We can take another hit. True Name Nemesis. Now if we counterspell this, it does change the clock. But how are we going to get through this? Let's leave it back on blocks. Sure. We'll say goodbye to this. They got Daze. We can pay. Alright, so they have no mana up. Have this Brainstorm that we can't use. How much damage are we getting in here? We'll play this out. I think we're just going to pump our guy for a little bit here. And go to attacks. Now we could fire off the Wasteland here. But I'd rather use it to hit a land that's going to be open for our turn. So we need to keep playing to win rather than playing to not lose. Wastelanding our Pendelhaven. We don't really have any choice about that, so sure. So we can't do a greed source here. We can still invigorate Berserk here. So are we keeping this Wasteland to play? They've got so much mana open. I'd rather keep this to play around a Daze now than Wasteland one of their permanents. Inkmoth Nexus. What does that do in this situation? Not enough is the question, is the answer there. Maybe we should have counterspelled this troll rather than trying to get the win. This attacks. We can give it +1, but that's not really going to help. And they're going to swing back with their troll and kill us here. Yep, so this is what I mean about them having just a deeper stuff. Yeah, we're not winning this game. Alright. So, again, I think we want these Veil of Summers. They're going to be really handy here. I think, again, the Flusterstorm is something I'm interested in too. These vines, they can protect our creature, but they are so expensive, like, to make as a pump spell. It costs green, which, as you're seeing, is sometimes difficult for us to achieve. So we'll strip out these cards. No. These cards. Anything else we want here? Like, we could bring in something like a Surgical just to try and hit their, like, early aggressive lines and give us some information. Is that what I want to do? Doesn't feel like an amazing thing to do. Or we could take Pongify, which will cut the clock in half if they have that sort of start. Crop Rotation is also a bit awkward against the counterspell deck, but it's good against the Wastelands, so it's kind of an awkward spot there. Sure, I think we're going to just submit like this. Alright, our mana base is betraying us. Let's mulligan. Okay, we have a very similar issue to what we had with one of our other previous hands of the mana being not quite where we want it to be. Right, let's keep this. One of these has got to go. I think it's the crop rot here. It's a bit sketchy into an opponent with counter spells. Right, let's just play the guy. This will make them wonder about a turn 2. What's our opponent going to go for here? Not a Wasteland, okay. That's something. A grief here. Well, this isn't the worst. Like, we still have still have good tools even after this resolves. But if they have a reanimate, they're going to take the Daze here and then reanimate it and take something. And yeah, the grief scam package is just so much stronger than most other things that you can be doing in Legacy, really. Right, they took the royal treatment, which means they're not reanimating this turn. Unless they think they can reanimate and have a Daze of their own. I would like to cast this Brainstorm. Just move some cards around, try and get something going. Embiggen is nice. I don't really want this Lorien Revealed, so this can go on top. And we have to make a choice with some lands here. I think I'll put the Inkmoth on top. And then we can decide what we're doing on our next turn. If we need to crack this, get rid of the Inkmoth. Which I think is probably where I want to be here. But if our creature eats it, then we're going to have to make some choices. Usually against Infect, you want to kill the Infect creatures on your turn. Because that gives you the ability to... Yeah, so like this. It gives you the ability to play around buffs and stuff. So I could just take the Inkmoth and save the Force of Will. I think we're going to do that and just take this Inkmoth. Is that right? No, I think that's wrong, isn't it? Because Inkmoth will just get Wastelanded now. Yep, that was yuck. So we play this out. Lorien Revealed is on top of our library. I don't think we play this Nexus out into the onboard Wasteland. Yeah, I think we're supposed to counterspell that one. And then shuffle our library. Right, we're already in with these, so I'm just going to get another trop here. I'm kind of... Right, another Force of Will. I'm not just going to play this Inkmoth Nexus out yet. Alright, our opponent's not playing anything over there. Alright, I guess we're just going to keep staring at each other for a bit. Things like Sauron's Ransom here can be pretty good. And Orcish Bowmasters. Not a fan of this one. This is going to shut down a lot of our other lines. We're going to pitch the Force of Will because the Daze might still have some use along the lines. Whereas a single Force of Will on its own in our hand doesn't do anything. They are swamp cycling. We're going to see a reanimate on one of their threats. I've got 3 to choose from. A Brainstorm, okay. Polluted Delta. Cracking the Delta. We're going to see something like a True Name Nemesis. Or just a Murktide. Just a Murktide. So if we had counterspelled that Fatal Push back then we could have at least been pecking away for a little bit. Although our Inkmoth Nexus would be under some amount of duress from Bowmasters. But well, we can't counterspell this because of that Wasteland. Yikes. On the Tropical Island. Yep, so they've got a 4-turn clock here. Which is pretty reasonable. Ponder, sure. So this list with less cantrips in, we're really feeling that as well. They did not shuffle their library off that Ponder, so I'm not expecting us to do a great deal in this game. If I'm being honest with you. True Name Nemesis, oh my lord. We get to cast our Daze and actually have it do something maybe. Wowzers. Alright, so now we can start playing out these Inkmoth Nexus. They're going to waste down the first one, and then hopefully the second one will be lethal. There's a Ponder. Yep, so there is the Wasteland we're expecting. So we're going to take 5 here. Now one problem we do have is that they can just block with the Murktide. Another Ponder. Another Wasteland. Alright. Oh, they've just gone straight for that. Okay, that's helpful for us at least. Let's jam a Blighted Agent. So we have an unblockable threat. We do have the kill next turn if our opponent doesn't have any interaction. We do need green mana for this kill. They have a Fatal Push here. That's obviously awkward. They're reanimating on Orcish Bowmasters. So we could Embiggen here to protect our creature and hope that we draw into an Invigorate. Otherwise, this comes in and trades with the Murktide Regent and our whole hand. I think, again, we're going to play to win here. Spell Pierce. Alright, we are just losing here. Not great. Very funny. So now we can chump block this to try and keep ourselves alive for a turn, but then we're just going to lose the game. There's no way back in this one. Yeah, the blue-black scam matchup for Infect feels pretty terrible. Let's go to round 3. We're going to keep this. We're going to begin the game with a Forest and a Noble Hierarch. We've got a Force of Will we can do some stuff with if we find that necessary. Okay, so we're seeing a Chrome Mox here. Imprinting Goblin. Which Goblin is this? War Chief? Sure. Another Chrome Mox here. So it's going to be Sticker Goblin into Muxus. Sure. I think I would rather hit the payoff here because they only have 1 card. I did not hit for the Muxus here. Ring Leader. This is going to be a big refuel for them, so we're just going to say no to that. Right, so we're not up against a deck that has much in the way of removal, so maybe we'll be alright here. We still need to play the Hierarch out, I believe. We've got plenty of time. Our opponent is hellbent, drawing off the top, and all they have is a 2-2. Now, a 2-2 will be able to hit us, but that's such a slow clock. Alright, this is lethal next turn. So, do we want to... I think we might want to Brainstorm here. That's just very lethal next turn. So we'll put this Inkmoth Nexus and one of the Invigorates. Cool. We get to do this with a Daze backup. Not that I think the Daze is going to be particularly useful, but it's there. So that's something. 3 mana. Goblin Matron. Okay. This should be okay for us because we will kill them on our next turn. A Goblin Ringleader. Sure. Here comes the Goblin for 2 damage. We're going to just take that, move on with our lives. And we get to do the thing that our deck's supposed to do, which is nice. Becomes a creature. Go attacks. It blocks. They can't block because they haven't got anything that blocks. Pump our guy. Pump our guy. We don't need to show them the Embiggen, we can just kill them here. Like, they probably know we're running Embiggen. But, okay. Blue Elemental Blast and Chill. They both seem good. Ah, maybe our opponent was in a pretty Goblin heavy meta and that's why they wanted to chill. Aside from that, it gets a little tricky. I don't mind Grafdigger's Cage to stop Goblins. Maybe that's why there's 2 of them in there as well. I don't think Daze on the play are going to do us a lot of good. So this is an interesting selection of things. I think this is about where I want to be. I don't really want this Bojuka Bog in the deck now. Let's have a Boseiju instead. It's just a green source, so it's just going to be better than if we draw that. There's definitely things we could board in, Sorcerer's Spygrass, like Battlecry Goblin and stuff like that. But I think the plan here is to just do our thing and hope that we can be uninteractive. Yeah, this hand seems like we're on the way. Is it too slow is the question. So this has a potential turn 3 kill if we draw like Berserk. But it has to be like exactly Berserk, right? Maybe we can mulligan because these 2 Lorien Revealeds are basically a mulligan in this hand already. Okay, this has not helped us out. This has also not helped us out. But do we keep this just because we get the ability to have a colourless threat and a way of stopping Muxus, which is the scariest thing that they do? On 5, I think so. Don't like it. And one of these has to go. It's probably the agent here. Because the Brainstorm can actually pull us out of a hole. But we get to Nexus, Grafdigger's Cage, and then we can... Like, obviously if they make turn 1 Muxus, then sure. But, alright, they didn't do turn 1 Muxus. I think we're always playing the Grafdigger's Cage here. Because this deck can so reliably make turn 2 or 2 to 3 Muxus that I think we need to prepare for that. Alright, we've found a card that actually does something. That's nice. Let's play this Cage. And pass. Ancient Tomb, what is this going to be? A Blood Moon. Blood Moon would be very bad for us. Pashalik Mons. That's fine. That's not worth a counter spell. Can give them the ability to mow a load of our guys down. In an annoying fashion, but... Okay. So which one of these was newly controlled? Newly controlled is this one. Let's go attacks. Right, so we're going to get bashed. So our clock is the same, but we went to attack first. But if we find any sort of useful mana, then we can change the clock in a big way. Okay, so we will tap this, cycle this, and get ourselves a Tropical Island. Play this Tropical Island. Now we could putting down this Hierarch is kind of similar in terms of what it achieves. Like, we give up 1 damage this turn for 1 damage next turn, basically. And this also gives us more mana to work with. We do have a Force of Will for anything spooky. So I'd like to draw blue cards so we can actually cash in this Brainstorm. But we'll see. A Chalice of the Void where X equals 1. I guess we're not cashing in this Brainstorm. This does shut off some of our other things, but this is honestly fine. We are winning this race right now. I just need to stop the things that make us lose our race. So here comes Pashalik Mons. They could have saved mana for this and sacrificed this to kill our Inkmoth Nexus. A Blighted Agent. Honestly, not really into that. We're probably still going to cast it, but... Alright, so this taps for 1 colourless. Becomes a 1-1. If I try and ping this down somehow, we can always pump it with the Invigorate. We do have the Force of Will. We can pitch this Brainstorm. It doesn't do anything. We will play this Blighted Agent in the next main phase, though, since we can't Brainstorm to put things back due to the Chalice anyway. Although I suppose it could be another blue card if we draw another Force of Will. But we'll see what this is. Gem Palm Incinerator. Alright. So we've protected our guy there. And so we'll put him up to 7 poison. So are we playing this Blighted Agent? Which is relatively easy for them to kill. But I think we do just need a backup threat in case something goes wrong. Okay. Force of Will is now off. But Muxus doesn't put anything into play. Sticker Goblin. Okay, we can't counter this one. But we can counter, like, the scary things that come afterwards. Potentially. Shatterskull Smashing. I'll say no to this. You got another one? Feels like another one. Oh, they're just sacrificing Pashlik to Pashlik Mons. That's fine. So they're going to deal 1 damage to our Noble Hierarch. That doesn't actually change our clock. It just changes the amount of mana we have to invest in our clock. Why are they playing this Chrome Mox now? That's interesting. It's only got 1 card in hand. So if they imprint onto it, they're not casting anything. Alright, they're off it. If we drew a land, then we kill them. Otherwise, we kill them the turn after. We got a match win on the board. A pretty uninteractive match, so that's kind of what we really need in some respects. Like the Scam deck is incredibly interactive and has a quick clock, and we just can't really beat that with our deck. Let's go to round 4. Yeah, this hand seems fine. We can keep this. Again, we are slightly at the mercy of our mana base. All right. Here comes the Glistener Elf. Opponent is a fan of the channel. Don't know if they're a big fan of me playing turn 1 Glistener Elf. Alright. Being on the... okay. Thought Seize, you say. Feels like we're going to get hit by Bowmasters as well. I was going to say, being on the play against the Underground Sea decks is helpful. But we'll see what this... Right, they've taken our Blighted Agent. Now they're going to take our Force of Will. Could take our Brainstorm. Probably be inclined... Well, they might take the Embiggen here. They've only got 1 mana left, which means they're less likely to play something like a Bowmasters now. Alright. I think our opponent is just going to be a combo deck that wants to race us. So we can't really... Actually, that's not true. We can win this turn, but it will involve us going through a Brainstorm. Alright, that's step 1, isn't it? A Daze. A Daze. I was not expecting Daze from the Dark Ritual deck. Alright. Yeah, so I wanted the Wasteland as an option to put back. That's why we didn't play it, and I wasn't expecting Daze out of the Dark Ritual Thoughtseize Duress deck, but I think that means our opponent's playing Doomsday. Which means that's not impacting our life total. It's kind of an odd one. Like, we do have lethal if we get another turn. We can pay around Daze. Preordain. Right, I think our opponent is on Doomsday. Let's see if we can kill our opponent here. A Brainstorm. We don't need to mess around with that. Let's go attacks. Can I Embiggen my guy? This will be lethal to exactly 10 poison if it works. Fingers crossed. Right, a Force of Will. Okay. Alright, so our opponent is not big in the amount of hits we need to do. So we can find any pump spell. Apart from Vines of Vastwood, which I do not like as a card, to be honest. Okay. So our opponent still has a... We know one of the cards in our opponent's hand is an Underground Sea that they bounced earlier to a Daze. So we could play the Noble Hierarch and just attack for 2. Or we could try and win now by Brainstorming. I think... Our opponent's got 1 card in hand. They're not going to be able to win with the Doomsday next turn anyway. Because they need... I suppose we know they've got the lands. They could, and they can't cast Doomsday because it's the island they have in play. Alright, we got a win there. Again, a matchup that's not really interacting with our creatures is kind of where we want to be. So, Flusterstorm, I would like this. Veil of Summer is probably going to have some utility. I'm pretty sure our opponent is on Doomsday by the cards they played. I can't think of any other Dark Ritual decks that also run Daze. So, Surgical Extraction sometimes does things. I don't really want these crop rotations. I don't particularly want Bojuka Bog in matchups, so we'll replace it with a green source. I think the Veil is better than the Vines, as we keep coming back to. Maybe we can trim one of these Lorien Revealeds. That's sketchy. So basically, we've got Lorien Revealed here over 3 copies of Ponder, is how this deck list is built. Which is a choice, I'll say that much. We're definitely not cutting any of our... But yeah, I think it's just the Lorien Revealed here. We'll trim that. Yeah, we can keep this. It's pretty good. Underground Sea. Are we dead on turn 1? We are not dead on turn 1. Is this what we thought? No. We think our opponent is playing Doomsday. They're down to 4 cards. I would like to save my Force of Will to deal with their Doomsday. If they take the Force of Will, we get to play the Glistener Elf and potentially threaten a kill very soon. Ooh, a nice bit of counter magic that our opponent won't know about. Excellent. Okay, so we have a Glistener Elf. A Duress. Sure, I think this is going to either hit our Daze or our Invigorate. The Invigorate, sure. We do have a Brainstorm though. Street Wraith being cycled. That's not cycling into anything they've set up, they're just getting deeper in their deck. Also, their Life Total is a free resource for them because we're not trying to deal combat damage to them. Well, we are, but not regular damage, it's infect damage. I would like to Brainstorm. Okay. Do not really want this Blighted Agent. Do I want double Daze? We definitely want this Noble Hierarch. Do I want another Brainstorm? I think we do want another Brainstorm. So maybe it's the Nexus that goes back here. And then we play this. Go and get ourselves a Trop. Play. So this gives us access to double Daze. And it also doubles our clock. We will need to find some more action, but that's what the Brainstorm's for. This deck feels much better when you have cantrips, right? Obviously, Lorien Revealed is a cantrip of sorts, but I think I would rather have Ponders. Alright, they're cracking their Polluted Delta. Cabal Ritual. Is this what we fight over? Or do we fight over the Doomsday? I think we fight over the Doomsday. Let's see if this second Daze is any good. Like if they bounce a land here to then Daze this back. Yeah, so if they bounce their second land, then they're going to set themselves back so far that it's going to be difficult for them. I guess with the Doomsday Pilot it's still fine, but they obviously didn't have another Daze. Yeah. Let's see what our Brainstorm finds us here. Out of curiosity. Well, they've got a few turns at least. Alright, let's go to the final round. We're now 2-2, so when we're not playing against Blue Black Scam, we're doing alright. Our opening hand doesn't have a way of finding an infect creature, so I think we can mulligan this one. No starting mana. Sure. I guess we get rid of these two. Like, we're not many cards away from just being able to win the game at the end of the day. Yavimaya, Cradle of Growth. Okay, that doesn't hurt me at all, so that's nice. Okay, we'll play this out. We don't want them to know what we're doing. We could play an Inkmoth Nexus and potentially be able to win next turn. But Yavimaya decks tend to have Wastelands in them as a general rule. So I'd rather try and get this Blighted Agent out. Thespian Stage. Okay, so we could die next turn. Winding Way. Okay, so we're on a full-on 8 mulch type deck. Double Ghost Quarter. Okay, that means I'm not fetching basics. 2 of each. I don't see that very often. I bind off a Ghost Quarter. Alright, so I think we play Inkmoth Nexus. Go and get a Trop here. We'll play ourselves a Blighted Agent. We have 6 infect damage showing. Well, not showing, but in our hand. So if we can find another Invigorate or an Embiggen will do it. We have the mana for that. Berserk also does it. Now the Ghost Quarter, Maze of Ith though. Alright, we have a Wasteland that we can fire off for that though. Due to the crop rotation. So we go play out the Noble Hierarch here. Perhaps Misty Rainforest. Tap this for green. Crop rotate it away. Get a Wasteland. Wasteland this. Go to tax. Get 2 infect in. So now we have a question of, are we deploying this Glistener Elf because we can tap our Inkmoth Nexus for green? Or are we saving it so we can Brainstorm and have more cards in our hand for next turn? If we find a Brainstorm. Because realistically, I guess it gives us +1 infect if we play this out. So I suppose this is just about acceptable. Against a Tabernacle, it's not great, obviously. But we can pay with the Hierarch and a land and then sacrifice the Hierarch. Okay, Dark Depths. So our opponent can make a 20-20. Okay, so this is the turn we need to try and win the game. Force of Will will not win the game. We can chump block with our Inkmoth Nexus. So I think it's what we're going to have to do here. But the Ghost Quarter is going to make that very difficult. But maybe they will miss it. So we could put our opponent to 8, but there's no point. They also have Boseiju. They have multiple ways of blowing up our Inkmoth Nexus here. Yep. Here comes the Marit Lage. So they have the mana to cast a Boseiju because of the legendary clause on Marit Lage. This allows this to be cheaper. Oh. Interesting. They've made a mistake there. They had the win. They've given us one more draw step here. which is actually enough for us to win the game if they don't do anything here. All right. And they can Ghost Quarter our Trop, and we can go and find a forest, so we can still do... Oh, Wasteland, though. All right, now we're into our turn. We should be all right to win this one, I think. Our opponent really messed up that turn. It's all right, though. I make many, many mistakes. All right, so we got that win. Not necessarily deservedly. I think our opponent may have just missed the fact that this is cheaper if you have a legend, but also they had a Ghost Quarter in hand as well. So, interesting. Right, I'll take it though. We need to get another win though. How are we going to do that? Boseiju is probably quite useful here. What else is actually going to be useful here is the question. Because probably Sorcerer's Spyglass to name things like Maze of Ith is not the worst. 8 Mulch tends to run a bit more in need of loams sometimes. Because they'll just keep a hand that's just trying to mulch and get the ley line going. So I think this is an okay shout. We can certainly pay some life with a Sylvan Library, so maybe we want that. And Force of Vigor definitely has some merit. So these are things I'm interested in. I don't want Dazes here. They're pretty much blank. Force of Will is not great in this matchup, but it's probably playable. Would I rather have a Force of Will or a Lorien? I think I'd rather have the Lorien Revealed here, actually. Against all the Wastelands and things. Do I want a Wilt as well? If you run a Wilt over another Force, I don't think that's where I want to be. Right, we're going to submit like this, and then we can always reappraise the situation. Right, we're on borrowed time now anyway, so... Okay, we have turn 1 Glistener Elf, turn 2 Noble Hierarch, and Embiggen if we want to, so we can go 1, +4, plus... So that's 5, +6. So we can hit our opponent for 6 Infect on turn 2 if things go well for us. We will be getting a basic here. Mana Bond. Alright, how bad is it for us? He's going to dump the whole hand. Then you get 20/20 on turn 1? We are not. Okay. We could Boseiju next turn if we wanted to, but let's just go and get ourselves... We're going to get the forest because Wasteland... They should have more copies of Wasteland than Ghost Quarter in their deck. Not sure by how many, but... If they Ghost Quarter this forest, that's real bad for us because this is our only forest. So if we draw Invigorate or Berserk, we win the game. As long as they don't have any interaction with us. Verdant Catacombs. I'm curious what the cards they didn't want to discard with Mana Bond were. Unless they're just building up so they have enough that they can do a... Okay, so it's a mulch. That's what they were up to. Yeah, so they might be doing enough so they can get Field of the Dead on the go. That was a pretty weak one, though. Only find the Maze of Ith. Do they want to put Maze of Ith in? That's the question. They're putting all these cards in. Double Maze of Ith. Alright. Pretty happy about this Sorcerer's Spyglass I seem to have in my hand. We'll just jam this in now. Opponent has no card in hand. I am curious why they're running this one and not just a good old-fashioned Pithy Needle. Maze of Ith. Now we can go and attack. And our opponent is hoping that their dredges are good. Field of the Dead is no good here. Is it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? Oh, maybe Field of the Dead is alright actually. I'll take it back. I miscounted. This is 7 total, isn't it? You can draw 7 or more lands, yeah. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They have exactly 7. Okay. We do still have the Inkmoth Nexus though, which can sail over the little friends. Glistener Elf isn't really the one we're after there, was it? So we play this one out. We play out our Hierarch. This activates this. We go to attacks. And this gets us them up to 3. And this with Embiggen, this is an artifact, creature, land. Artifact, creature, land, Phyrexian, Blinkmoth. Yeah, so Embiggen will be enough to kill them next turn. Alright, they've dredged. We've seen what they've dredged. Therefore, we have won this game. Alright. Unless I'm missing something. But I don't think I am. We know what their cards are. We've seen all the cards that they've been putting into their hand. They're getting lots and lots of zombies, but that's not going to do very much here. They're going to be 1 turn. Oh, actually no, the Boseiju. The Boseiju is real here. That is an issue for us, isn't it? If they mana bond at end of turn, they can't Boseiju. But they might just Boseiju and then mana bond. Maybe they'll mana bond and we'll get lucky. If we have a Berserk, we might be able to get through anyway with our Glistener Elf. Yep, so here's... Oh, okay, they're doing this on the Sorcerer's Spyglass instead. Okay. That is awkward. That is awkward, isn't it? I must have missed the Boseiju there. Alright. Windswept Heath. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So we're going to have to put some amount of guys under the bus here. How are we getting through this Maze of Ith? We can Boseiju one Maze of Ith. Alright. I think we are going to Lorien Revealed here. And see if we can survive one turn here. And maybe have a way of giving our guy hexproof on the next turn. That's not really it, is it? The Boseiju is gone though. Alright. So... basically 6 of these hit us and we die. So we have 7 of them. So we have to block 2 of them here. So we can't do our crop rotation now. We have to do it in combat. So we will crop rotate away our forest. We will get ourselves a Wasteland. So we can Wasteland a Maze of Ith. We need them to not see the Boseiju play really. That's what we're kind of hoping for. Because we could have got Bojuka Bog here, but then we can't get beat the 2 Maze of Iths. Unless we get the hexproof thing, but the hexproof thing will kind of do it anyway. A Ghost Quarter, that's also pretty good. Oh, I thought we had this one for a while. There's no way we can get through this. Oh, that was awkward. Don't want to do anything differently. Counter spells are kind of better on the play versus this deck. So we can hit the mana bond or the expiration on turn 1. Do I want to set myself back with mana in order to do that is the question. Maybe one of these Lorien Reveals can go. Maybe we're not going to have time to Sylvan Library here. So let's get Daze back in. I'm not convinced about this Force of Vigor. Let's have another Daze. Crop rotations do seem useful here. So extraction also seems useful. The hexproof so we can get through Maze of Ith seems useful. Bojuka Bog definitely has text here. Alright. We will submit. This hand is very slow. I think we can do better. Okay, this is a turn 2 kill. Let's throw back this force and hope that our opponent has a setup turn. I think we play out the Inkmoth Nexus because this is the one that will kill on turn 2. Because Embiggen will give it a whole bunch. It's super types, card type, and subtype. So artifact, creature, land, Phyrexian, Blink Moth is +5, and then +4 from the Invigorate will kill them. Exploration. Please don't play a Wasteland. A Thespian Stage. Alright. So we should have the win here, unless our opponent's got something I don't know about for 0 mana. Oh wait, no. Hold on. We need 1 more mana for this, don't we, actually? I've made a mistake here. Because we don't get the pump straight away, do we? We need 1 more mana for this. Okay, I'm going to save this Royal Treatment in case our opponent has a Wasteland or something, rather than playing out this Glistener Elf. So we can turn Inkmoth Nexus into a creature, and then give it the Royal Treatment to keep it alive. A Ghost Quarter. A Dark Depths. Not great, is how I'll describe how that's gone for us there. It was so close. It was so close. If we'd have played this Glistener Elf on turn 1, creature, Phyrexian Elf, Warrior. That's +4. The Invigorate is another +4. So that's 8. We still wouldn't have been able to win the game. Or maybe we would have been able to win the game here. I don't know. We've made things difficult for ourselves here. Yep, so I'm going to make the 2020. We're going to chump block it with an Inkmoth Nexus. And then hopefully we can kill them on the backswing. This game's tight. Alright. I would like this to become a 1-1 guy. And I think we just pay... Actually, we pay with the Inkmoth Nexus here. Even though the other ones can make the mana. If they Ghost Quarter in response, Yeah, no, if we... Oh my god, have we made a mistake there? If we activate with the other one, we can still chump block, but then we don't win the game. Yeah, so if they Ghost Quarter this, and we had the other Nexus up, we could tap this to create this other Nexus. That could block. We'd lose it, and then we'd have nothing in board. Yeah, so we took the correct line there to try and not lose the game, to try and win the game rather than not lose the game. Because if we lose this, we just sort of die, right? This is opponent gaining life, so we can't gain the life here. This doesn't untap it, does it? Creature you control against Hex Prism 2 out of 10. Let's just pump their brush there, guy. Sure. Yeah, maybe if we play out the Glistener Elf, we could have won that one instead of just going for the... I think that was just a mistake on our part there. That's tough. I thought I had an additional mana that I didn't have. I just wanted to do one big hit, but maybe I should have just got the Elf down first and then play the Nexus. Yeah, I think that was my bad. I think we could have had that one. So maybe this should have been a 3-2. Yeah, I think I definitely punted that last one there. I think we could have done a lot better. And we probably could have won that game. Now, there's definitely a bunch of stuff our opponent could have had that would have stopped us from winning the game. Things like Maze of Ith or whatever could have sort of ruined our plan. But I don't think we played that round optimally. I am not an Infect master. And like I said before, I will link the channel of someone who is. So if you want to watch someone play Effect who knows what they're doing, by all means have a look. But let's talk about this deck in terms of my experience with it and my take on it. So, I don't like Lorien Revealed over Ponders, really. I understand why they're in the deck. But I don't think we want... We certainly don't want 3. Because sometimes we just needed to string together certain bits. And Lorien Revealed only gets you with one type of bit. And I don't think that's where I want to be. I would also say 2 Wasteland is probably a little bit greedy. And I think the Bojuka Bog in the main is also greedy. I think you can have the Boseiju in the main because at least it's on colour and it's part of your plan. The Karakas, again, feels a bit greedy in the main deck. I wouldn't mind seeing another basic. It might... Maybe it should be a forest, but if we're playing more... If we're playing more Ponders, then I think we might want an island. So I have 1 forest, 1 island in the deck to reach for. The blue-black scam matchup, even though I'm not very good with this deck, that matchup felt ridiculously hard. I think the blue-black scam player will be favoured most of the time in that matchup. You'd have to have such an enormous gap in play skill, and even then I'm not sure that you'd necessarily be able to take that one down very convincingly. Because just the stuff that scam does is just so potent. Like, they can put a big threat that we can't deal with because our deck doesn't really deal with threats. And they've got really good hand disruption. So our little blue Force of Wills and stuff like that aren't very good against the scam. That's why scam is so good. Is because it kind of goes through Force of Will quite nicely. Because once you Force of Will the grief, like, then it's basically you got 2 cards out of you instead of 1. And then if they reanimate it, oh, you're in trouble. So there's just not really a suitable way to best that with blue cards. Now, Veil of Summer does do that quite well, but we didn't draw the Veil of Summer in that matchup. So maybe if we draw those, things go a little bit better for us. What I will say is this Vines of Vastwood card is terrible. I don't think this card is, certainly not in this list, doesn't feel very playable to me. It's green, and we've got a bunch of lands that don't tap for green. And it's 1 mana just to protect your guy, which is fine sometimes, but not amazing. Like, you're basically just paying... It's like a 1 mana counterspell, sure, but having to pay green to get the pump on it, with the speed of Legacy at the moment, and how difficult sometimes it is for us to get that green, this just doesn't feel like a realistic thing to play. Now, in a set that's coming out in November, there is a 1 mana, split second, untap your creature, give it hexproof. It also deals damage whenever it taps to a creature this turn. That is going to be a much better protection spell than this, because it's split second, so, okay, you know it's going to work. So I think that's fine in that sort of slot, better than this. It's also going to be better than Royal Treatment. I think Royal Treatment is better than Vines of Vastwood most of the time. Like, yes, you can get 4 damage out of the Vines, but green is such a big investment. Like, I'd almost rather just run Giant Growth or something. Or maybe not Giant Growth, but the like the landfall ones or whatever. There's some other options that you can play that will pump your guy that I think are better than Vines of Vastwood. Really not a fan of that card. But it does feel like this deck is a bit of a holdover from yesteryear, right? it feels like the things it's doing are pretty reasonable. Like the high end of the powerful things you can do is pretty good. But against what Legacy is like at the moment, it does feel like we are a few steps behind in power level. And the fact that everyone's running Orcish Bowmasters and all of your guys are X1, meaning you need to protect your guys. So you need to have additional spells to protect your guys than you necessarily would do in the past, because they've got a so normally you're countering non-creature stuff back in the day. So you'd quite often find things like spell piercers and stuff in the deck to protect your guys. So now you have to counterspell an Orcish Bowmaster, which can come down at any time, which is really annoying. So they could just go, in your end step, I'm going to try and bop your little guy. And if you're on the draw, that becomes really problematic, because if you play your Glistener Elf on turn 1, it can get killed. If you don't play your Glistener Elf on turn 1, you fall behind. And it's just kind of a bit awkward, because you kind of need the game to get over and done with, because other games have got much better mid to late games than we have here. And yeah, I'm not really feeling this right now. But I do think the change of the Legolas spell that's coming in is going to help. So this league, I think the deck probably deserved the 3-2. I think it was on us in that last round that we didn't get the 3-2. I think we should have just played the Glistener Elf out and sort of beaten down with that. I think we still lose most of the time looking at where that was. I think I have to go back and do the maths. But obviously we don't know what the 3 mystery cards in our opponent's hand were, and that could have changed things a lot as well. But I feel that we could have had a better stab at it if we just played the Glistener Elf instead of just leading out on the Inkmoth Nexus. But I guess part of me was trying to play around like a big mulch turn early on that could kind of stop our guy attacking. I just wanted to get the evasion guy in. But yeah, like loads of Ghost Quarters and Wastelands is always going to be problematic for us. I think we should have Pit Needle instead of Sorcerer's Spyglass as well. Although maybe seeing the hand is okay, but 2 mana is a lot in this deck, right? That's another reason why I don't like Vines of Vastwood. Everything needs to be cheap in this deck. And we don't really have that cheapness if we're playing things like Vines of Vastwood. If we're trying to pin together 2 spells, Vines of Vastwood basically can only go with Invigorate, and that isn't lethal unless you've already done 1 Infect. So, I don't know, I'm not convinced by Infect in the meta right now, but like I said, check out the channel, Sandown's channel that I'm going to link in the description, because they are significantly better at Infect with me, so you should listen to them and not me. Obviously, they will get better results than I do because they put a lot of time and effort into playing Infect. So they'll probably get better results than most people will on the list. So there is that factor too. All right, I think we're done for today. So remember to like and subscribe and keep an eye out for my 2,000 subscriber giveaway when that pops off. And yeah, again, just thank you so much. I really appreciate people watching the channel. It means a lot to me. I know I sometimes make the odd mistakes playing decks I'm unfamiliar with, but hopefully it's a learning experience for everyone. It certainly is for me too. All right, I think I'm done rambling, so goodbye.